Hello and welcome to today's Spot Synology Partner Online Training webinar. My name is Ismar Hota and today we are going to be talking about mesh network and more importantly our mesh router MR2200ac and the Synology Router Manager or SRM 1.2 for short. Today's content is going to look at the mesh network, which solutions we offer, what is SRM 1.2, and at the end we are going to show you the demo of the features that the SRM 1.2 offers. So let's begin. What is a mesh network? Let's take a look at your ISP router, your Internet Service Provider router. So that is a device that is dedicated to manage all your internet connectivity that is coming into your home, as well as for all the devices connected to it. But once you move away from your router, your signal starts to decrease. You've probably seen this. Your signal bars start to go down as you move away from your router. Now, what is the job of the mesh network device? It is actually to create hotspots within your home where the signal is bottlenecked. But more than that, it actually creates one extended coverage of internet network connectivity. This isn't the first time people try to solve this problem of getting the most coverage in their given space. So the most common way that is used to solve this problem is by using access points. Basically, what you do is you get another router and the other router will act as a slave and replicate the master router's Wi-Fi connection. So you would have the other router placed somewhere else in your building, for example, and as you walk from point A to point B, your phone or your laptop should connect to this other router that you have set up. And although this seems like a great idea, it has some major flaws that our mesh routers actually solve. If we go back to our access points, imagine that the distance is, for example, 20 meters between access point A and access point B. So if you're standing next to access point A and you start moving closer to access point B, you should connect to it, right? But since you are connected to access point A, which is the primary router, and you moved away from it, your connection and your signal has actually decreased. But the problem is that this solution is that your phone will actually not switch its connection from access point A to access point B unless you manually do so. This means that you could be standing right next to access point B and you will not connect to it automatically. This means that although you're standing right beneath access point B, which should give you strong signal, you'll still be stuck with the poor signal and network connectivity coming from access point B. Basically, you can either switch to access point B manually or wait to completely lose signal from access point A and wait to connect to access point B. Because although it actually has the same SSID and the same password, in short it has the same settings, your phone does not recognize it as the same network, but rather as a different device or another access point within your network. That is why this solution actually leads to breaking in your internet connection and is by far from being a great solution. Now, when you decide to implement a mesh network, you actually solve this issue. The way mesh network solves this issue is by spreading around mesh routers. These routers are not connected via cable, but they are actually connected wirelessly to your main router. They don't just clone the same network and the password of your original router, but they actually create one single network whereby your device actually has no idea that it is switching between the devices and you are continuously getting high signal as you move around the house or your office environment that has a mesh router network implemented. So in this image we actually see a home environment that has a mesh network implemented. So basically, you can be moving around the house. If, for example, you wake up on the third floor, you go downstairs to, brush your teeth, or you go down to the ground floor to have breakfast. Your phone will continuously be connected to the same network that is, being spread around by our mesh router systems. In the second part of this video, we are going to talk about the solutions that we offer with our MR2200ac. Basically, we'll focus on the hardware specs of the router as well as some major highlights. So here you can see the picture of Synology MR2200ac. This is basically what our router looks like. Some of the most important highlights that we would like to point out on our MR2200ac is the fact that it comes with a tri-band feature. This basically means that the router can broadcast three different signals. Essentially, there are three different Wi-Fi networks at once. A tri-band router actually hosts a 2.4 GHz signal and two separate 5 GHz signals. Other than that, we would also like to point out that our MR2200ac has 802.11ac support, which is basically Wi-Fi 5 support, and this means that it will work with 5 GHz connections. Other important key features that we would like to point out are the remote management, or that basically means that you can access your settings of the router from a remote location, which can also be done using the Synology Quick Connect ID, as well as the VPN support, where you can actually implement your own VPN subscription into your router so that every person on the network can enjoy the benefits of a VPN subscription. Some additional highlights that are worth mentioning are the MU-MIMO technology that our router uses. Basically, this means multi-user, multiple input, multiple output technology, which enables a wireless router to communicate with multiple devices simultaneously. This basically means that if you have a number of phones or a number of laptops connected to your router will be able to communicate with all of these devices simultaneously, which in effect reduces the time that each device has to wait for the signal and significantly increases the speed of your network. Other key features that we would like to point out are the fact that our router supports Smart Connect. It also has MAC address filtering. It comes with a USB port 3.0, and it has a feature where you can enable a guest wireless network. So here you can see what our hardware features on our MR2200 look like. Basically, it is designed to be placed on a table, and it actually can't be mounted to a wall. At the top you can see the aerial bar, the lights. So it's not like your standard router that shows you standard indicators like whether it is on or off. But basically the mesh router is designed to show you the strength of your signal with these aerial bars. There's also WPS key that is for connecting your devices via a pin. It works a little bit like pairing via Bluetooth for those who aren't familiar with how this idea works. In the back there are also two ports, and one is a WAN port and the other one is a LAN port. So this basically means that you can also use MR2200ac as your primary router too. In the back you can also see that we have a USB 3.0 port available to connect different types of storage to your MR2200ac. When it comes to organizing a Synology mesh setup, one of the important things that I'd like to mention is that it actually creates a single SSID, which is essentially the name of your network. It also supports the tri-band feature, so this actually increases your performance. Our mesh router network also has the ability for self-organizing and self-healing, which I'm going to show you right now. So mesh self-healing basically works in a way that, for example, if you have your mesh router set up and all connected within one network, and for some reason one of your routers actually disconnects from the rest of your network, you actually lose signal and your network starts breaking. So for example, look at the picture on the left. You can see that the two routers have actually disconnected from each other. This can happen for a number of reasons, for a number of disturbances. For example, in your office, you can have such a building that, walls are blocking the signal, or somebody is closing the door, and, some unexpected occurrence might occur. And then you have the router to the bottom right. It tries to actually pick up, it heals itself basically. It picks up the signal from the other routers and it actually remakes the mesh network. This is what we mean by self-healing. Our mesh routers are actually smart enough to realize that they have lost the connection to the main router, and they will try to find signal coming from another mesh router, basically to remake the mesh network and heal it so that you continuously have signal and connectivity throughout your network. Synology actually recommends that you have a setup where you have a single main router, for example our MR2200ac, and then you should have at least two mesh routers in order to create a fully operational mesh router network. I want to point out that our mesh router is actually not compatible with any other router on the market, so you cannot basically buy our mesh router and expect it to work with your router at home unless you have a Synology router. And on the bright note, our mesh routers have an easy configuration. Basically, you plug them into a wall, and they have a smart feature where they will, it's like basically plug and play. They will pick up the signal coming from your main router, they will connect to each other, the two mesh routers, and they will create a single mesh network, and off you go, you're ready to use all your devices. In the third part, we are going to go over the Synology Router Manager, or SRM 1.2 for short, where I'm going to, just show you through a few slides what the SRM actually looks like and what a user can expect, and how you can actually use all the features of the MR2200ac. So basically, once you actually enter the SRM 1.2, this is the screen you're going to be greeted with. Basically, it comes with these basic functions, and I'm not going to go into detail right now because I'm going to show you in the SRM demo what actually are all these apps and how you can use them. But some of the SRM 1.2 highlights that I would like to mention is that we have a full mesh Wi-Fi support. This means that you can use the MR2200ac as a router or in an access point mode. When it comes to security, you can actually crank up your security level all the way to WPA3 support, which is basically the highest level of security available at the moment. You can create guest portals and guest networks. The router supports MAC address filtering, which means that you can block off certain devices from accessing your network. We also have IP version 6 support with our router, and we have an auto update support, which basically means that first of all, your SRM manager will update by itself, as well as all the databases from Google Safe Browsing and Threat Intelligence, which I'm going to talk about in more detail when I go into our SRM demo. In the fourth part of the video, I'm gonna show you the Synology Router Manager and how it actually works and all of its cool apps that it comes with. So basically, be prepared to watch the demo of the SRM itself. So let's start our SRM demo. First of all, we are going to log into our router. And now once we are logged in, we are actually looking at our Synology Router Manager 1.2, or SRM 1.2 for short. And this is the desktop that you will be looking at once you log into your Router Manager. Now I'm gonna go through some of the apps and show you some features and facilities that the SRM offers. It actually looks very similar to DSM for those of you who are familiar with it. On top, you have the menu. So let's click on the menu. And now let's open File Station. So once we are in the File Station, you can actually see that it looks very similar to the File Station on a NAS. Here you can set up different login privileges and make different shared folders and so on and so on. Now, a small remark: in order to actually use the File Station on your router, you'll have to actually input a storage device into the USB 3.0 port and actually make the file system and set it up before you can actually fully engage and enjoy all of the benefits available on the File Station. So now let's go to the Package Center. It's our next application. Basically, the Package Center works in a similar way that the Package Center does on the NAS, but here, when we go to all of the apps, you will actually see that there aren't a big deal of applications available, And this is because this is a router and it actually does all the things that you need the router to do. So don't expect our MR2200ac to be a NAS replacement, because it is definitely not. But it has some interesting apps that I would like to show you. So the first interesting app is the VPN Plus server, which allows you basically to incorporate your existing VPN subscriptions into your network environment. This means that all of your connected devices on your Wi-Fi will be able to enjoy the benefits of your VPN. Now, another interesting app is the media server. This means that you can use the router as the media server as well. Basically, you could, put some cool movies or some pictures on a USB and you could access it through a media server. Okay, some other apps that are very important and are worth mentioning are the cloud station, so you can use it also as a cloud station, as well as safe access and threat prevention. Now, when it comes to safe access and threat prevention, we are actually going to go into the detail of these two apps, and I'm going to show you how they work and how they can be very useful. Now, let's go and see the next application that comes installed on our router, and that is the log center. So basically, the log center, it has a simple job, and that is basically to display everything that is happening within your network. Basically, it functions a little bit like a notifications panel on your phone. It basically tells you all the things that are happening on the router. Now, since this is a demo unit and the computer that I'm using at the moment is actually our little studio here, there isn't a great deal of things happening, so you will not see that many notifications and not much going on in the history. But basically, once you actually start using this in your home environment, you will see many benefits of the log center. Now, let's move on to our more important application, which is the control panel. The control panel lets you take care of everything in a very user-friendly way. So basically, you could create new users and stuff like that and have multiple different users connected to your router. When we go to the storage, here at the moment we have no available storage device. So basically, if we did, you would be able to see what is going on there. And I would like to mention that you could even use the network storage device such as a NAS, and basically you would have all your familiar functions of the network storage that you're used to with your Synology NAS. When we go under the device section, here you can see the hardware specs of our current router that we are connected to. And when we go to the system, here you can see things like update and restore, so you can update the firmware of your router from here and so on. Another thing that is very cool is when we go to the Synology account, here you can actually see that you could log in with your existing Synology account and register actually your Quick Connect ID, which would allow you to access the MR2200ac from a remote location. Excuse me. Now, let's go to the Network Center, which is another very useful app. So basically, once you open up the Network Center, it will show you the health and the strength of your network. From here on, you could monitor the hardware inside, and you can have a lot of cool analytical stuff that you can actually obtain from here. Now, when we go under the operations mode, you can see that you can set up your device as a primary router or as a wireless access point. In order to do so, it is very actually simple. All you have to do is click on one of these options, and you'll be greeted with a wizard-like interface, and you just have to follow it, click, 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 and it's basically as simple as that. Now, when you go to the security, this is your basic stuff that every router in the past 20 years has been equipped with, so nothing really new going on here. When we go to get to the port forwarding, basically we could make a DDNS server to access our MR2200ac from a remote location as well via this method. Now, let's see what do we have when we open our Wi-Fi Connect app. So Wi-Fi Connect app actually lets you take more control over your Wi-Fi network. When we go to the wireless section, here we can actually set up the SSID, which is the name of our network. We can change the security level. So basically we can go from having no security all the way, to enterprise level WPA3, the highest available security level at the moment. You can also play around with your channels if you live in a crowded area, if you want to take the most advantage of your current Wi-Fi connection, and so on and so on. Here under the Wi-Fi point, you can see how our mesh network is set up at the moment. So we have the Synology Router MR2200ac and the two mesh routers. So basically this is the most standard and most recommended network setup that Synology recommends to its customers. When you go to the guest network actually allows you to set up a connection in a way that you could have a tri-band connection. So from here you can actually make the guest network, which for that you would need a tri-band enabled router, which we have. And the reason why you would want to do this maybe is because, for example, you want to restrict certain website for your guests, you want to restrict the bandwidth that they can use, and so on and so on. Under MAC filtering, this option actually allows us to block certain devices from our network. So basically, if you don't want somebody with a certain phone or somebody with a certain laptop accessing your network, from here you can actually identify their MAC address, and you can deny access to your Wi-Fi network. Now let's go to the network tools. Network tools actually has some very lovely analytical overviews that you can see and that you can test. So for example, when we go to ping, we can ping the website. So let's see Synology website, so synology.com, and pinging the website basically tells us whether the website is responding. So when we try to open it, it shows us that we have a pretty good 90 millisecond response from the Synology server. Now, when we go to the trace route, this is very cool analytical way for accessing trace route. Basically, you can do a similar thing in command prompt, but it's far from being so aesthetically and graphically pleasing. So let's try again Synology website, synology.com. So now you'll see my tracing will start from my office here in Düsseldorf, and it will trace around to find the data center or the server where the website is actually stored in. So let's give it some time. It's very interesting. So it went to Seattle, to the US, where we have one of our data centers, and it actually came back. It came back all the way to Frankfurt, where we have another data center. So pretty cool feature. And now we are going to show you another very cool feature called safe access. Now, in this app, you can actually do a number of very cool things. So we can create different profiles for different users and set up different sorts of permissions, like how much time they can use the internet, which websites they can visit, when and how much, and and so on and so on. So let's actually test this out. Let's see how this would work. So in order to do this, I'm going to actually connect to the router itself, and now I'm going to set up a profile for myself. So once you click on to set up a profile, you'll be greeted with this add profile wizard, and you just follow the steps. It is very easy. So you click on here, and then you are greeted with predefined profile. So you can be a user profile, which is the one that is generally used the most. You can set up my local network profile, which is basically a device that is connected through a wire to your router, so like a TV or a printer, or you could even make a guest profile. So I'll create a user profile, you know, as simple as that. So click on it, and then let's put up my name. We'll even upload a photo. What the hell? I want to show you how this works. So this is not me. This is not who I am, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to upload a random photo available on the current computer that I'm actually using. So here we go. Now once we open this, now I can find myself. Here I am. Select this device, and from here on we can go. We can set different kinds of rules. So when I click on it, these are, you know, some rules that come. So you can make some kind of web filtering. So if I click on it, so there's predefined profiles. I can name this user a child. Basically, by doing so, I prohibit this user to access adult content or some illegal websites. I can make this user a guest. Basically, this means that this user cannot actually access social media and other sensitive sites that might disrupt you from your workflow. I can make this user a guest, or I can have all the freedom in the world. I can customize it in any way that I wish to do so. I can also create different internet schedules. So when I switch this on, I can allow or block certain parts of the day when the user can access or not access the internet. So for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna give myself like 24/7 allowance, like every single day, you know? So there you go, unlimited access to the internet. Now, if I so wish, I could make this user, you know, I can set a quota for the user, so the user can access the internet only during certain periods of time, you know, for a certain amount of time per day, and so on and so on. I can actually customize it in any way I desire to do so. There's lots of cool options. So for example, if you have children at home, you don't want them spending too much time on the internet, you know, using this router can actually allow you to, you know, engage in such options. And for the last part, we are going to look at an app called Threat Prevention. So when you open it, this is what it looks like. And how does it work? So for Threat Prevention app, in order for it to work, you will actually need to have a USB storage attached to your router. And once you attach it, it will install Threat Prevention package from the package center. So you insert the USB storage, you go to the package center, and you install the Threat Prevention. Then once you open it up, you'll be faced with a message to update your database. In our case, you can see that our database is actually updated, so it says system well protected. But the first time you start this, you will have to update the database, which can take up to 5 minutes to complete. So once you click on it, the system will sync the database of the potential threats, and they will actually automatically be updated from Synology servers. So you don't have to do anything else. The rest of the app actually has some very cool analytical features to see when the threats were actually prevented from where and how severe they were. So you can see that in the past 7 days we had 41 threats. All of them were actually had like a low severity level. When we go to the statistics, you can see some very cool graphical representation where these threats actually came from. Also, when you go to the self-defense policy, you can set up how you actually want to maintain your threat prevention. Under settings, you can actually make sure to include threat prevention on VPN, on different sort of networks like 3G, 4G. If you, for example, have a connected dongle to your router and so on, here you can set up which device will actually be under the protocol of threat prevention and so on. When you go to backup and restore, you can actually back up your databases of threat prevention, and you can restore them at later on time from and to your PC. So basically that is it as far as our SRM demo goes. Thank you very much for your attention and for watching our spot webinar on MR2200ac, our new mesh router. And if you have any other questions and you would like to get to know more information about this particular model, please consult our website, and you can even send an inquiry, and one of our tech support members will be very happy to give you more details about this cool new product.